All right, we've reached week 6, and now that there are no games being canceled to COVID, we get some bye weeks being thrown at us. Yay!
Fun times, man.
All right, welcome to a new episode of the BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern. Joined with me, as always, is Derek Mountain. Tom Bennett, how are you doing today, guys?
Good.
Doing well.
Before we get started, I don't know if you guys saw this. Adam Schefter had a hilarious tweet about 30 minutes ago.
The trade tweet?
No.
Oh
no.
Okay.
This is one of the more ridiculous things I've ever seen, but whatever. 2020, bring it on. So the Jaguars have had kicking struggles. They're on their 5th kicker in 5 weeks. Today, their kicker, John Brown, has been a kickoff specialist since 2018. He had a stint with the Bengals. This guy has never attempted an extra point or a field goal in a real football game, ever. He's a kicker today. So
it was
bring it on.
because I was coaching my daughter's kickball game this morning, and I saw something about John Brown and kicking, and I didn't even look into, and I said, and I thought to myself, are the Bills using John Brown as their kicker? I'm not. I was so confused.
This dude is a soccer player who has, so
well,
bring it on.
So,
I am praying that he's good, and we see him versus Rodrigo Blankenship on the Colts some point this year. I need to see that kicker duel.
So Younghoe Koo, who is the kicker for the Falcons, he actually grew up in the town right next to me, and he grew up a soccer star, and he never played football growing up, and then all of a sudden he became a kicker for the Falcons, and he's got one of the better better distance legs in the league, and now
he's a great kicker.
I wonder if this is going to start to become a trend where teams are going to look for soccer players, and we also I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the Tony Miola or Tommy Miola experiment in the 90s. He was the goalkeeper for the U.S. team, the men's U.S. soccer team in the 90s, and the Chiefs gave him a tryout, and he went through almost a full season, and he was just awful. but he was. It made huge news because he was a big name in U.S. soccer at the time, and I think it was the Chiefs that. And it just didn't work out, and we didn't really see any soccer players. I think maybe that gave a lot of teams some hesitancy about doing that. We have we're going to have our studs and sleepers. We're going to talk about a couple injuries. We have some players who were placed on the COVID list, but we do have our first question. And again, if you have a lineup question, feel free to post them in the comments below. We will read them on the air. So our first question comes from Jose in a 2 QB league. Sit 1, Stafford, Tannehill, or Dalton. I'll let you guys go first, but this one is pretty easy for me.
Derek, you want to take it first?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with sitting Dawn. And I do like Andy Dawn's prospects moving forward, but it's his first start on Monday night. And I just love the matchups of Stafford and Tannehill, 2 proven guys. Tannehill is a top 10 scorer, points per game wise. And we saw what he did Tuesday night. Houston's defense has really struggled, and Stafford's going against Jacksonville off a bye week. I like those 2 a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has to be sitting Dalton on this one.
Yeah, and this has nothing to do with sort of a fear about playing Dalton. It's that I'm much more comfortable with the other two matchups. Stafford, we've seen him play much better since Kenny Golladay has returned to the lineup. Tannehill has been one of maybe the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in fantasy since he took over as the starter 14 games ago. And in 2 games last year, he absolutely torched the Houston Texans. We'll get into some of that in our studs and sleepers. But yeah, I love the matchups of the two more seasoned guys, the guys who have been playing, as opposed to Dalton, who is just jumping in. He has the best receiving core he's ever played with, but this is I think it might be a little too early to start him for now. But thank you for the question. So let's get into a little bit of some players who are out, and the first one we have to start with, and I see Tom, you're wearing your Bronco jersey. And we got to start with Melvin Gordon. What a crazy week it was this week for Melvin Gordon. Tuesday charged with a DUI, back at practice on Thursday, out of practice on Friday for strep throat, and they decided to leave him home because, well, a lot of times we're starting to see when anybody has any other illness, they're more susceptible to contracting COVID-19. So they decided to leave him home, which means we're going to see a lot of Philip Lindsay in this game. Is this the sort of game that you feel comfortable with Philip Lindsay, knowing that it's his first week coming back from an injury? Derek, we'll start with you.
Just to touch on Melvin Gordon, a few things. Strep throat, I think he's still a little bit hungover after it a little bit on Tuesday morning. Dude, it's 2020. You have the money. You just got paid by Denver. Pay the extra couple hundred to get your friend to be your driver or get an Uber. How are we still doing this? You got to be kidding me. It's embarrassing. It's pathetic. But anyway, with Philip Lindsay, I mean, I think Philip Lindsay by himself, talent-wise, is a great running back, and he's great by himself. I thought the Gordon signing was a little confusing this offseason, but he's played really well, and Lindsay's been hurt. But if you have other options, I would stay away just because of the matchup, and he's coming back from the toe injury. And we know Belichick is always going to try to take away that first option, that second option on opposing teams, and with the team, with Brett Rippon at quarterback, they're going to try to take away that run game in Denver. So if you have a better option than Philip Lindsay, I would stay away from him today.
I thought Drew Lock was supposed to start today. I thought I saw a report that he was a good to go.
Yes, Drew Lock is starting today.
Oh, I misspoke. I did not see that.
Same difference, though. Guy coming off another injury. For me, in any other week, if Lindsay was back last week and he got his comeback game out of the way, he would be a much better option. But I have to agree with Derek on everything that he said. I don't believe that Lindsay's going to do as well as everyone is expecting him to with this workload today.
I kind of like him. I kind of like the prospects of, and hey, Philip Lindsay has been doubted his entire NFL career. Undrafted free agent, comes in, takes over the starting job, and I don't think anyone ever wanted to give him the credit he has shown that he deserves. It is a tough matchup, but I think the Patriots have shown that they're not the 2019 Patriots defense, especially in the run game. I think they can be had. So in fact, we also Jose sends in perfect timing. Philip Lindsay or David Johnson. See, so now this is something that this is a little tougher for me when something like this, only because I'm expecting David Johnson to just receive a huge workload today.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to go with David Johnson. He's a sure thing. This is for even without LeBron. I would almost say that's a wash matchup wise. I'm going David Johnson.
Yeah. I think I would have to go with David Johnson as well. I think that the passing game for the the Texans is going to be a little iffy today. It's going to be a lot of David Johnson touches, whether it's out of the backfield or taking the ball for a run. That one for me is a much easier decision than I think it is for you, Ryan.
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I like Lindsey, but I like Lindsey if you're the Melvin Gordon owner and are looking for somebody to fill in. David Johnson has established himself in this current Texans offense. He had 100 yards last week. If he's able to find the end zone, which he hasn't been able to, I think it could be a bigger week for Johnson. Thank you for the question. Next question from Daniel. I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Should I pick up Le'Veon Bell too? So that was the big news of the week. Was that the Jets, Tom, the Jets fan, the Jets decided to release their best player for.
I just have to ask, how do you cut your best player before you fire a head coach that has not won a game?
2 words: Trevor Lawrence. That's why.
Tank for Trevor.
They are not in the game now of winning football games. They are not. That's the only reason Adam Gase is still employed.
We have this is great, and I'm assuming that this is going to be a trade because I even though Le'Veon Bell was released, I haven't seen him dropped from many fantasy rosters. I don't think if you're the Edwards-Helaire owner, I don't think you have to go out and get Le'Veon Bell. I think they can, and we've seen the Kansas City offense be able to support multiple running backs throughout an extended period of time. I think they're going to have completely different roles in this offense. I think you're going to see Edwards-Helaire be used between the 20s. And I think you're going to see Bell be used on third down and goal line. So I don't necessarily think it's a handcuff situation, but should one of them go down, or should Edwards-Helaire go down, Le'Veon Bell's going to be I would assume a top 7 play at worst.
Yeah, definitely. If he's a free agent, there's literally no downside. Pick him up immediately. Yeah. For a trade, I do think Le'Veon Bell presents low-end RB2 flex play, like right out the gate. I mean, we've seen the guys, we've talked about it. The guys who – no. Yeah, no, absolutely. He's not playing. But just moving forward, I mean, we've seen the guys see greener pastures after parting their ways with Adam Gase. I mean, Devontae Parker, Kenyon Drake, Damian Williams, the list goes on and on. Le'Veon Bell is going to be a part of that list. I mean, everything from going from Adam Gase to Andy Reid to that O-line to playing with Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be a great fit. I'm not sure we're going to get the 2017, 2018 Lev Bell in terms of his legs, but this guy in this offense is going to catch a lot of passes and get goal line work. In the Chiefs offense, if depending on the price, I do think that's a guy you should seek now as a Edwards-Helaire owner.
I would say that he will have more than 3 touchdowns than he did for the Jets. He will have more than 3 touchdowns with the Chiefs, unlike he did for the Jets.
Yeah, and I'm going to go out on a limb, but I think he'll probably average more than 3.2 yards a carry with the Chiefs.
That's a bit of a stretch. I don't want to say that. But yes.
But yeah, so I would definitely look to see what the price would be. Again, if he's on the waiver wire, grab him. Just drop whoever's at the bottom of your roster. If you need to trade for him, try and talk him down. try and say, well, Le'Veon Bell is going into an offense where Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still going to be the guy, and try and give up as little as possible. Thank you for the question. Next question comes from your boy Drew. Start 2 in a PPR. Julio Jones, Tyler Boyd, Devontae Parker, Terry McLaurin, Chase Claypool, and that's I'm assuming Boyd again.
Tyler Boyd again.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had this problem.
Yeah.
I wish I had this problem.
So I'll start out.
Wow. You're unbelievable.
I'll start off. The first one that I'm dropping or not starting is pretty easy, and that's Terry McLaurin. We still don't have any. We don't know what the offense is going to look like under Ron Rivera with Kyle Allen, and now Terry McLaurin is going to have the James Bradbury shadow today. Bradbury has been ranked by PFF as the number 2 cover corner in the league so far this year. I'm staying away from McLaurin. I'm probably, and I'm so tempted to go Julio, but it really is a good matchup. I'm torn between Julio, Boyd, and Parker. Claypool obviously he had that enormous week last week, going against a good matchup with the Browns, and Deontay Johnson's not playing. But I'm not chasing the points with Claypool, especially when I have options like those other 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Out the gate, I'm getting McLaurin out, and I'm going to take Claypool out just because even though Deontay Johnson's out, I think Cleveland's going to game plan him. They have Denzel Ward on the outside. He'll see some shadow coverage because they're going to put Juju back in the slot without Deontay Johnson.
Right.
I'm not as confident there. I think Devontae Parker, for sure you put him in. It's the Jets, and I saw a stat this week. Since Week 7 of 2019, Devontae Parker leads the NFL in receiving yards with 1,350. That is a full season's worth of games. This guy should be treated as a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 moving forward. He's a beast. And the way Fitzpatrick's playing against the Jets, I think that's a great pick. I would lean towards Julio. I know he's injured and it's a little scary, but against those Minnesota corners, he has a lot of upside. I think you have a high floor play with Parker, and then you have your really high upside play with Julio, but you can't go wrong with Tyler Boyd either.
Yeah, I actually traded for Parker in 2 of my leagues because I needed some consistency in my lineup, and that man has not let me down since I traded for him. So definitely go with him. Like Derek said, high floor guy. I would also probably have to lean Julio, although Tyler Boyd is going to be it has been great with the coming of Joe Burrow and everything, but I just think that this is going to be a big T. Higgins day is actually what I did. I actually have been debating him in one of my other leagues over one of my other flex plays.
Yeah, it's also the Colts, and the Colts don't give up a whole lot of points to wide receivers. So, yeah,
to anyone really.
Yeah. So, Julio and Devontae Parker, I think, if you ask the 3 of us, would be the consensus. Thank you for your question. Again, if you have a question for regarding your starting lineup, leave them in the comments. We will answer them on air. We are now going to get into our studs, duds, and sleepers. So we will start off with our quarterback studs of the week. And Tom, what?
I believe we got another question in.
Oh, we do have another question. Thank you very much. From KJW Watkinson. Start Robert Woods or Devin Singletary in the flex. I'll answer for all 3 of us. Robert Woods.
Yep.
The amount of times I have lost this year due to Devin Singletary. I went all in on the Bills. I got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and then I got both Singletary and Moss. And the amount of times that Singletary has let me down, I am considering cutting him. So yes, I will get Robert Woods.
Zach Moss is going to play this week. Going to cut into the workload that Devin Singletary hasn't been receiving as it is. This one's a pretty easy one for me. Thank you for your question. All right, quarterback studs of the weeks. for the week. Tom, we'll start off with you. Who you got as your QB stud?
Kind of touched on it already when we were talking about Devonta Parker. We got Ryan Fitzpatrick versus my Jets. Dude has been absolutely balling out since week 2 versus a variety of different kinds of defenses, whether it was Buffalo in week 2, Jacksonville in week 3, San Francisco last week. The dude's on ESPN has put up 25 or more points versus all of those defenses. He's been playing absolutely out of his mind, and he's going up against the worst team in the league. I think it's just going to be so much fun to watch for me today, but I think he's going to ball out. Yeah.
Derek, what you got?
I'm with you there, Tom. He's the 7th leading scorer this season among quarterbacks. My stud of the week is going to be Ben Roethlisberger against Cleveland. This guy, talking about high floors, this guy has a very high floor at the moment. He hasn't scored below 19.2 points yet in any of his 4 games. And I just like the matchup against Cleveland. Yes, Denzel Ward is a beast and will present tough shadow coverage to their outside receivers. But other than that, their deep end with Carl Joseph and Andrew Sandejo have really struggled. Ronnie Harrison, I think, will trickle in more, but he's still not starting for that defense. Spencer Redwine's actually getting his first start today. They have a lot of issues on that back end, and I just love this Steelers offense. They don't really have that many holes. Good run game. That offensive line is still very stout up front. Yes, Big Ben isn't throwing the ball down the field like we're used to, but it doesn't really matter. He is a shoo-in for 20-plus this week. I like Ben Roethlisberger.
My quarterback stud of the week is going to be Kyler Murray versus the Dallas Cowboys. Murray's coming off of a 380-yard performance, was able to he was able to move the ball effectively on the ground as well. And it was against the Jets, but he gets to go against the Cowboys, who don't pose a bigger threat.
Never a strategy to pick the guy going against the Cowboys.
Yeah. So
at least this year.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, and obviously you got to love the way that he's been able to spread the ball out. We've seen Andy Isabella get involved in the offense, Christian Kirk, and then they still have some guy named Larry Fitzgerald that can be used as old reliable, even though he hasn't been a big part of the offense this year. He hasn't needed to be. Monday night, Kyler Murray is going to get his chance to show his skill set off to the world. Yeah, I absolutely love Kyler this week. Running back studs of the week. Tom, lead us off.
Sticking with that Monday night game, it's going to be Zeke Elliott versus the Cardinals. We kind of touched upon how we're all a little mum on Andy Dalton in his first start. I think McCarthy is going to try and ease him into that offense. Not going to really be gunslinging it like Dak has been throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. You know, what was the stat? Dak was on pace to throw like 6,700 yards or something insane like that. You know,
that's different.
that's just crazy to even think about, let alone be possible. But you know, Zeke, you look at his consistency through those first 5 weeks versus the number of defenses. He's been super consistent. Excuse me. And now that they don't have Dak throwing the ball all over the field and everything, I think that McCarthy is going to lean a little heavier on Zeke, especially with Dalton in. So it's going to be a much bigger week than what he has had so far. Is the reasoning I have behind his stud.
Yep. Derek, who you got?
I'm going to go with David Montgomery against Carolina. And we have picked on Carolina the past few weeks, and this is a good young defense. They play much better. They look good, and it's not even a matchup thing, even though I do think that he's going to see a lot of success. But it's more just his play with Nick Foles so far. This entire offense is elevated with Nick Foles, and without Tariq Cohen in that backfield, he is the main pass catcher in that backfield. Past 2 weeks, he's gone against Indy and Tampa, two of the most stout run defenses. He hasn't even seen 30 rushing yards in either game, but he was a double-digit point scorer in PPR formats. He's not going to get under 30 rushing yards today. He is that pass catcher. He is going to see a lot of touches out of the backfield because there's no competition. And look, it's not a sexy play. It's not the flashiest play in that offense. It's still not a great offense with Foles, but it goes along the same lines of Roethlisberger. He's a very high floor guy. I like Montgomery.
We had a reply to the Woods and Singletary comment asking if he should start Gore. And if it's asking if you should start Gore over Robert Woods, no. If you're asking to start Gore over Robert Irvine, then no. Yeah, I would start Singletary over Gore. So I'm definitely not starting Gore.
Unless it's Crowder, just don't start a Jet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him in every single league I got. That's my guy.
He's third in points per game by a wide receiver this year.
Dude gets 7 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown every game.
He has had 100+ yards in every game. It is insane. The only other Jet that I have picked up has been LaMichael Pirine. It's for my keeper leagues. He'll go in as a late round pick. Adam Gase did say he was going to get much more involved and that they can't lean on Frank Gore because he's 37 and all this stuff. So if you're looking for a guy to stash on your bench, that would be it. And that is the last Jet I would ever take other than those two.
Yeah. So my running back stud of the week, and if you drafted Dalvin Cook in your season-long leagues, this is why you had to invest an 8th or 9th round pick in Alexander Mattison, because you knew you were going to get some opportunity during the season to play him, because there's always going to be at least a week that Dalvin Cook misses. He leaves last week's game against Seattle, and with a groin injury. Madison just steps in and just does exactly the same thing that Dalvin Cook does. And we've seen Mike Zimmer come out this week. He said that when, in terms of their game plan, he's not going to alter it one bit, because he thinks that Alexander Mattison can give him the same exact thing that Dalvin Cook gives him. And he gets the Atlanta defense this week. Alexander Mattison is probably, it could be a top 5 play this week. And again, if you're a Dalvin Cook owner, you had this is why you did it. This is why you invested your handcuff in Alexander Mattison. Wide receiver studs. Tom, lead us off.
I'm going to follow Derek's lead on this one and bully the Panthers a little bit. I think this is going to be a big day for Allen Robinson on the Bears. I think that they're actually going to shy away from Montgomery. Sorry, Derek. Just due to the fact that A-Rob's going to be kind of all over the field. And he's been a guy that they've gone to week in, week out, no matter who the quarterback was. And you saw last week when Foles had his first start, he targeted Allen Robinson 16 times. That's like a Jay Crowder type of target number line there. So I think that this is going to be no different. I know he's going to be drawn James Bradbury, who we talked about a little earlier, but if he's not going to be a stud, it's definitely going to be one of the most fun things to watch this afternoon, to watch those two guys ball out.
McLaurin will get Bradbury. He'll get A-Rob will get more Rasul Douglas.
I forgot that
they don't really do shadow coverage. It's a good matchup. I mean, you can't deny how much, just like off Montgomery, you can't deny how much Allen Robinson's play has been elevated with Nick Foles. That dude feeds Allen Robinson.
Derek, who you got as your wide receiver stud?
I'll go Chris Godwin. I mean, he's been a little bit of a Band-Aid to start, and injury concerns have been an issue for the Bucs, their perimeter as a whole. But the reports were positive. The practice reports were positive. Bruce, I mean, they've dealt with him, Mike Evans, Fournette, and Scotty Miller all on the injury report. And Bruce Arians had the biggest vote of confidence for Godwin on Thursday, I think. And this is a guy, when he's back in their lineup, he's a huge integral part of that passing attack. Evans is the red zone guy. He is the big play guy, the 50-50 jump ball guy. But everything works through Godwin underneath. They put him in the slot. They get him opportunities to get open. It's going to be Brady's safety valve, and especially with a guy like Gronk who you can't rely on, and a guy like Mike Evans on the outside, going to see shadow coverage from Jair Alexander, who's an absolute beast. I think Godwin's going to feast today. I like him against Green Bay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are surprised at how much Tampa Bay has actually thrown the ball this year, considering how hurt they've been at wide receiver, and
Definitely.
considering Brady's age, and considering that and I know Fournette's been hurt, but they have Ronald Jones, they have
And he's
Keyshawn
looked great.
Vaughn. Yeah, and so you have all of these reasons that Tampa should be steering clear of passing the ball, yet they're passing the ball. So you can never go wrong with the floor of Chris Godwin. My wide receiver stud of the week is going to be A.J. Brown for the Titans against the Texans. Last year in his 2 matchups against Houston, both times went over 100 yards and a touchdown. We saw last week him get integrated right back into the offense as if nothing had happened with his bone bruise injury on his knee. This guy is just a flat out baller, and with the way that Ryan Tannehill just continues to make strides and prove that he's a quarterback of the future. AJ Brown's going to be the reason why that happened. So I absolutely love AJ Brown this week.
I love AJ Brown. He was a ride or die of mine. I picked him up in a bunch of my leagues during the draft.
Yep. Let's round out our studs and tight ends. Tom, lead us off.
Last time we were on this show, we were talking about streamers for the potential fallout of Travis Kelce. And my guy that I had picked that week is my guy for the studs this week, Robert Tonyan. Robert Tonyan, before that bye, when I called him as a streamer, had 33 points on ESPN. He had 98 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 catches. This guy is going to be the red zone guy that Rodgers has been looking, even though Devontae Adams has been out and he's been getting a couple of more targets a game, and now he's back. I think Tonyan's just going to start being that guy where if they're going to throw the ball and not feed Aaron Jones on the goal line, it's going to go to Tonyan. And playing the Tampa Bay defense, they're a tough defense. They have a good set of middle linebackers that are covering him and everything. But I think that this is going to be a really good matchup for Robert Tonyan because the Packers are going to get down deep in the red zone and they're going to throw the ball.
Yeah, and I think in terms of the Packers passing offense, ever since Allen Lazard went down, they've been searching for their number 2 guy or even their number 1 in the weeks that Adams had missed. And I think everyone was looking for it to come from a wide receiver, but it's their tight end. Robert Tonyan right now is their second option in the passing game, unless you include Aaron Jones. But especially in the red zone, it's going to be Tonyan. So yeah, I love him this week too. Derek, who you got?
I'm going with Mark Andrews against my Eagles. The average stat line that the Eagles defense has given up to a tight end has been 6 catches, 64 yards, and a touchdown per week. Is it tilted because of their Sunday night matchup with Kittle? A little bit, yes. But they also gave up a catch and a yard to Drew Sample against Cincinnati in week 2, so it evens out. But I like Andrews just because the Eagles are vulnerable to tight ends and slot receivers. Every single week, it's one of those guys on opposing teams that explodes, and the only option for Baltimore is Andrews with how much 12 personnel they go out in. And we've seen Lamar Jackson and Andrews' chemistry throughout the years. It's undeniable. Yes, tight end is a crapshoot, but Andrews week to week this year has been a little inconsistent, but this is such a juicy matchup. And it's like I said, in the tight end position, you can count on Kittle, Kelce, now Jonnu Smith, and then it's Andrews. So I love this matchup.
Yeah. My tight end stud is going to be TJ Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions. They get the Jacksonville Jaguars this week. We've seen a lot of struggles from Marvin Jones, him not being able to separate. Stafford has not been looking to him the way that he has in the past, and that was part of the reason for their struggles the first couple weeks of the season. Once Galladay came back, we started to see the middle of the field open up a little bit more. And that's when TJ Hawkinson has just absolutely started to tear it apart. He is now, just like with Tanyan, he is their second option in the passing game. He's developing into the tight end that, again, rookie tight ends are so you don't get a lot of hits with rookie tight ends. And I think a lot of people were holding that against TJ Hawkinson going into this year's draft season. You start to see tight ends develop a lot in their second and third season. So and when someone's the 8th pick of the draft, you expect them to make it more towards the second season than the third. And we've really seen Hawkinson develop into a trustworthy candidate, and he gets a great matchup against the Jaguars this week. Time to move on to our duds of the week. Quarterback dud. Tom, who you got?
I got the rookie Joe Burrow. He has been super consistent all year until he faced that brick wall that is the Ravens defense last week. Then he's going up against another really good defense this week in Indy, which we kind of touched on earlier. The big problem for me with Burrow this week is looking at his stat line. He has 3 interceptions on the year and has 2 more fumbles that he's lost. There's only been 1 game where he hasn't given the ball away. That is very concerning, considering that the Colts are very, very good at getting opposing quarterbacks to give up the ball. I just don't like the matchup at all for the Bengals. Just in general, this is the game that I'm staying away from the most. There's not much more else I can really say. It's not a good matchup for Burrow.
Yeah, we saw him struggle against a good defense last week with Baltimore. It's up in the air at who people think is a better defense, but there are some people that see Indianapolis being a better defense than Baltimore. So while it may be a week where you see some garbage time and he makes his overall stat line look better, it's not one that I would trust. So, Derek, who you got as your QB dud of the week?
I'm going with Matt Ryan. The first 2 weeks, he absolutely exploded against 2 of the worst secondaries in football in Seattle and Dallas. And in his last 3 games, he's had 1 touchdown pass. Now, Minnesota is a decent matchup. They've played better defensive football than their first 2 weeks where they were out of sorts. I still am staying away. Yes, Dan Quinn was fired. There's the chance that there's a little bit of a resurgence, but Dirk Cutter is still calling plays for that team. Raheem Morris is a defensive-oriented interim fill-in. I don't really see any changes to this offense, any immediate changes at least for this week. Yes, the matchup's okay, but he is the 5th most expensive quarterback in DFS formats. There are just so many better options down the list than Matt Ryan today. I'm staying away from him.
Yeah, it's funny because you got in your picks before either Tom or I could, and Matt Ryan was going to be mine. Hey, they played really well last week against Seattle. Sort of what was a shock because of what we had seen from Minnesota in the past and what we saw from Seattle over the first couple weeks. But yeah, so I would have gone Ryan if you didn't. So now my dud of the week is going to be Gardner Minshew, and a lot of this was based on the belief that DJ Chark was not going to play. Now it looks like he went through warmups, and now it's expected that he is going to play. Now, does this mean he's at 100%? Probably not. But I
see
was
a decoy situation.
Right. So we've seen the 2 times that Minshew has not had a healthy DJ Chark. He's been bad. So again, like I said, this may be a decoy situation, so maybe he is not playing with a healthy DJ Chark, and this comes to fruition. But I can easily see this being a James Robinson game. The Lions have not been good against running backs, and Robinson has looked really good this so far this year. Are they going to be able to get something out of Keelan Cole, out of Laviska Shenault? And Chenault's looked really good, but I don't know about the consistency from that we're going to be able to see from Minshew this week. So I'm avoiding him, even though now with DJ Chark in, he does become a better play. I'm still going to look to avoid because I think I can find better values, especially this was a really tough week to pick a dud quarterback because the good quarterbacks have good matchups. The not so good quarterbacks have pretty bad matchups. So it was tough to find a bunch of the duds this week. So
100%.
Running back duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a risky pick for this, I guess, but I got Derrick Henry here versus Houston, not because he's going to do bad, but I just think that it's going to be a big passing day from Tannehill. You know, we were talking about AJ Brown earlier. Derek mentioned Jonnu. There it is. I think it's going to be an air ball day for the Titans, and Henry's going to kind of get lost a little bit, you know, and the thing that really concerned me and the reason that pushed me over the edge to put him here was he only played 52% of the snaps last week. And I know they were coming off not practicing and wanted to save him and everything, but 52% is low. That's like a change of pace back type percentage. So I think that they're still going to try and nurse him back into it after not practicing for 14 days or whatever the stat was. And I think it's going to be a big Tannehill day.
Derek, how about you?
I'm going to go with Miles Sanders against Baltimore. And it kills me because I love Miles Sanders. I have him in 2 of my leagues, and I think the guy is an absolute stud, but he has been absolutely killed with these matchups. And we saw last week, I mean, with the Steelers, he still came out and had over 20 points. But if you look closer, taking away that 74-yard touchdown, he had 10 carries for 6 yards. It's going to be a similar situation against Baltimore today. That front seven is no joke. Patrick Queen is probably the front runner for Defensive Rookie of the Year so far. I don't love the prospects of the Eagles' offense at all today. I think their wide receivers are really going to struggle with that back end, and I think Baltimore is going to do everything they can to take away Sanders. I think they're going to be trailing in this ballgame, and Doug Peterson hasn't showed any kind of patience to really stick with the run. I don't love the prospects of Sanders today.
And again, this is one of those where if you're in your season-long leagues, you probably have to start Miles Sanders.
I would avoid him in a DFS format for sure.
Yeah, DFS. I'm not going anywhere close to him. All right, here's a really difficult one. Start 2 in PPR. Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Mark Ingram. So initially, right off the top of my head, the two that I would have said were Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins. They're both wide receivers on the same team going up against a really good defense. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Derek,
we just got done talking about Burrow being my dud. I mean,
and we're about to go into me having Joe Mixon as my dud. So,
I'm with you, Ryan. I take away Ingram just because the Eagles do have a stout run defense. They're still top 5 rush defense in football, and the running back committee in Baltimore is crazier than I've ever seen a committee be. I don't think any of their 3 running backs have more than 36% of the snap count in the season start. Even though J.K. Dobbins is clearly their best option, they're very strong on just splitting them very evenly, all 3 of them. So I just don't like Ingram in general week to week, and especially against the Eagles. I'm rolling with the 2 Cincy receivers.
And with Mark Ingram, if you're not getting a touchdown, you're getting a bad week.
Yes.
I'm gonna rest my laurels on the potential of garbage time of the late third into the fourth quarter, where the Colts could be up by 20 some odd points. Maybe they start to rest some of their starters, and we see Boyd and Higgins get it going in the fourth quarter. As much as it pains me, I'm going with both of the in this situation, both of the Bengals receivers.
I have to agree. There's nothing that pains me more than double dipping in receiving cores.
Right.
It's my least favorite thing to do. I wouldn't even do it with Tampa Bay, just because one of them is gonna do well and the other is gonna do bad. But this situation, it's a complete crapshoot. I don't even know. Wow.
Yeah.
maybe play the waiver wire.
Yeah. Hey, we're about to get into
Stick around for our sleepers.
Yeah, we're going to get into our sleepers in just a few minutes. Make sure you're tuning in, see if there are any of these guys that are available on your waiver wire. And with that, my dud is Joe Mixon. And partially because I'm expecting the Colts to be up early, and we have not seen the Joe Burrow or the entire Cincinnati offense utilized Joe Mixon in the passing game yet this year. Last year, especially in the second half of the season, we saw Mixon with 25 to 30 opportunities per week, and it was 5 to 7 in the passing game. We just have not been able to see that this week. As much as I love Joe Mixon, I'm avoiding him this week. Wide receiver duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
My dud goes in tandem with Ryan's stud of the week. I got Mike Evans here. I agree 100% that it's going to be a big Chris Godwin game. I could also see Rojo kind of balling out versus Green Bay. I know they have a good defense, but Tampa Bay is going to move the ball. They're going to score some points, and I don't think it's going to be Mike Evans because, like you mentioned earlier, Ryan, Jair Alexander.
Yeah, that was Derek's.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
The Jair Alexander factor is why I'm very hesitant on Mike Evans this week as well. Derek, who you got?
I'm going Terry McLaurin. We touched on it. James Bradbury is an absolute stud. I mean, the guy held Allen Robinson to 33 yards, Woods to 36 yards, and last week he held Amari to 2 catches and 23 yards. You game plan against the Giants. I just think you avoid Bradbury altogether. I get it, Terry. I think they still move him around, put him in the slot because they don't have that many other pass catchers. In your fantasy leagues, you probably have to start Terry, but DFS, I'm avoiding him, and I just don't see Terry seeing the success that he has seen in the early part of the season, especially with Kyle Allen back there. So I'm just staying away from Terry today.
My dud is going to be Amari Cooper. Again, we're starting to get into the whole Andy Dalton thing. Who is going to get Andy Dalton's trust? Early on, we saw it be Michael Gallup in the first couple opportunities that he had to close out the game last week. He does get Patrick Peterson. Now, Peterson doesn't often shadow, but the Cowboys don't necessarily move Amari Cooper around the field as much as they move CeeDee Lamb, Cedric Wilson, and Michael Gallup. So I do think we're going to see more of a Patrick Peterson, Amari Cooper showdown, and that's just not something that I'm looking for in playing Amari Cooper this week. So I'm looking to fade him. Let's wrap up our sleepers with our duds with our tight ends. Tom, who you got?
Another team we kind of have already touched on already. I got Zach Ertz here. Sorry, Derek.
No offense taken.
I mean, I can't really offend anyone. You could literally just put duds. Dude's
been an absolute bust early part of the season.
to be honest, it doesn't even need to be against Baltimore. I think if it were against the Giants, Zach Ertz would be a
He
dud.
needs that supporting cast to come back so bad.
Yeah,
they're him seeing extra
exactly.
He doesn't separate like he used to.
No.
Yeah, he's a possession catch guy. He's gonna get the catch in the end zone, but even then, he has one touchdown on the year, which came in week 1 when Dallas Goedert was there and Jalen Reagor and everyone was there. And Pittsburgh, I think, is a slightly better defense than Baltimore, so he could do better than the one catch that he had on his 6 targets. But I wouldn't give him the 11 points he's projected to have. Is my problem.
Definitely.
Yeah, Derek, who you got?
I'm going with Tyler Higbee against San Fran. I'm just staying away from Tyler Higbee. I think you kind of miss your window to sell him if that's what you were going for. I kind of think he's droppable at this point. We saw him explode for 3 touchdowns against the Eagles in week 2, and he's done nothing else after that. He hasn't exceeded 3 catches or 8 points in a game after that. He has run the 29th most routes among tight ends. This is a run-first offense. Sean McVay wants to give Gerald Everett the ball more than Tyler Higbee. He is there to block. And he's going against Fred Warner. Fred Warner's maybe the best cover linebacker in football. It's a terrible matchup. It is not a optimal offense at all. I kind of think you drop Higbee from here on out, and I'm not starting him.
So I want you – I don't know if you saw this, but how many receptions do you think Tyler Higbee has on the season?
Oh, God.
I think he got 5 against the Eagles, and then I think he's averaged about probably 2.5 a week every other week. So that's 4 games. So what is that? So that puts him at 15 catches.
That's exactly the number. He's at 15.
Wow.
Pretty good math right there.
Wow.
You take away the game against the Eagles where he had 5 catches, 3 touchdowns.
It's not good.
And I mean, he has 10 catches on the year and no touchdowns. He's just not being utilized in the game script the way that he should be. And we're starting to see Gerald Everett be more involved in the offense than Tyler Higbee. So, I think as dreary as the tight end landscape is this year, and again, this was a year that we said, oh, there's a lot more tight ends that we can trust this year than there have been. Even less
not a chance. Fantasy football was like, no, you're not allowed to have any more tight ends
unless you spend a second rounder.
Oh man!
I'm gonna have Austin Hooper as my dud of the week against Pittsburgh, and a lot of this has to go towards Baker Mayfield. I'm not. We saw Baker Mayfield leave last week's game with a rib injury. Rib injuries don't go away overnight; they linger, and this is a front 7 that is going to get after him. And we have not seen Austin Hooper be integrated into the offense the way I think a lot of people thought he would. And now Njoku is back, and while he's not being involved, he's not being integrated into the offense very much either. He still is going to take away some of what we're going to see from Austin Hooper. I'm staying away from him. All right, let's move on to our sleepers to round out today's show. Quarterback sleepers of the week. Tom, who you got?
I got a guy that I'm kind of surprised we haven't had any questions on in recent weeks, and it's Jared Goff. That 49ers defense is hurt. We all know this, and yes, they're still a good defense. They're a well-coached defense. Goff has been very up and down, but he's been consistent with those up and downs. Week 1 versus Dallas, he had 11. Week 2 versus the Eagles, it was 23, then 28, 11, 24. He's going to get you somewhere into that 12 to 25 range each week. And I think that this is going to be one of those weeks where he could light it up a little bit just because of I think that the 49ers secondary is relatively weak, even though they're a good defense. It really came from their pass rush and their running defense or their rushing defense. Goff's a guy that I've been trying to get in my leagues off the waiver wire, and he's just been scooped up by so many people, and I'm kind of upset that so many people have seen him. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good week for him.
Derek, who you got?
I'm going with Kirk Cousins against Atlanta. Atlanta is dead last against opposing quarterbacks for fantasy. They've given up the most points. And yes, this is a run-first offense, and I am 100% Ryan's sentiment that Alexander Madison is going to be a top 5 play this week. They're going to pick up right where they left off with Dalvin Cook in the rush. But this passing offense, this passing attack the past 3 weeks has been very legit. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen are a legit 1-2 punch, one of the better ones in the league already. And we saw the emergence of Irv Smith last week, and I'll get into that later. But great matchup. You're going against Atlanta. Kirk Cousins looked a lot better. He's a good deep play this week. I like Cousins.
So I do a lot of my judging of the where someone's going to fall into a stud or a sleeper by their pricing on DFS, and the one that I use the most is FanDuel. On DraftKings, and this isn't going to affect, but on DraftKings, Ryan Tannehill is tied for 16th highest priced quarterback this week. He's tied with Phillip Rivers and Ryan Fitzpatrick at 59.
Oh,
Rivers, no.
He's priced behind the likes of Teddy Bridgewater, Gardner Minshew, Cam Newton, who we haven't seen. I mean, how
that hurts.
How do you not, if you're playing on DraftKings, how do you not use Ryan Tannehill in your lineup this week? But my sleeper of the week is going to be Matt Stafford. He's 13th on DraftKings. He's 14th on FanDuel. And we've seen him just, like I said earlier, since Kenny Golladay has come back, he's looked more like the Matthew Stafford that I think a lot of us were expecting. I know that I was. I'm so heavily invested in Matt Stafford this year. And with the emergence of TJ Hawkinson, and there's always the potential that you get the Marvin Jones breakout game. It happens twice a year. You just don't know when it's going to happen. So that against Jacksonville, it could very easily be this. And with a banged up Adrian Peterson, I think we're going to see DeAndre Swift involved in the offense a little more, and I think he offers more in the passing game than he does in the running game, especially so far this year. So that's just added points for Stafford. So that's another reason why I love Stafford. Let's get into our running back sleepers of the week. Tom.
Yeah, so you were kind of talking about Baker Mayfield and the Browns earlier. I got Kareem Hunt here as my sleeper running back. Pittsburgh, like I said, I can see them being a better defense than the Ravens, and I said that a little bit earlier. But Hunt has been a very vital part of that offense ever since Nick Chubb went down. And if Baker Mayfield is out, and I don't officially know his status or any of that, I just know that he's been dealing with that rib injury. I had him having a bigger game than he's even projected to right now, and 19 and a half, I think is what his points are supposed to be. He's going to be that entire offense if Baker Mayfield is out. So it's even though it's versus a tough defense, he's probably not going to get the ton of yards in PPR. He's going to be amazing.
I think we're at the point right now where Kareem Hunt may not be considered a sleeper, but I can definitely see where you go, especially because a lot of people are fading him because of the matchup. I can definitely see it as a contrarian play.
If anything, it was much more of a hold strong on Kareem Hunt type sleeper instead of shying away for a potential better matchup.
Yeah, and he's used in the passing game too, and he can be used all 3 downs. There's nothing to. I mean, you're using Kareem Hunt against the Steelers. That's all you need to know about what Kareem Hunt can do. Derek, who you got?
I'm going J.D. McKissick against the Giants today. Back to our last commenter, JB. I would advise you to pick up a guy like McKissick and play him over maybe a guy like T. Higgins. It's not a fun play necessarily, but I think it's a safe play. I think you have a high floor, and you're not double dipping as we talked about in a Cincy wide receiving core. McKissick, the last 2 weeks, has seen 13 catches. His snap count was at 50% and 56% last week. People are a little confused. He's taken away snaps from Antonio Gibson, but it doesn't really matter in fantasy. In terms of fantasy, he's only owned in 22% of leagues in ESPN, and he hasn't even seen the end zone yet. He's not necessarily that goal line back, yes, but I think against the Giants, whose defense has surprisingly been very good. Kyle Allen is, I think, 25% of his completions last year at Carolina were to running backs. So I really like the prospects of McKissick as a sleeper.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because I have a bunch of shares of Antonio Gibson, and the fact that they still think that J.D. McKissick is good enough to play than
really strange.
Antonio Gibson is just mind-boggling. But and we saw last week, once Alex Smith came into the game, it was all J.D. McKissick. We didn't see Antonio Gibson involved in the offense at all. So my running back sleeper of the week is Myles Gaskin. He's the 24th highest priced wide running back on DFS this week. He gets to go against the Jets. That's all that he's been utilized in the offense. He's getting 20 touches a game. Jordan Howard is, for the second week in a row, a healthy scratch. So that just means that he's going to get the goal line work as well. Because early on in the season, we saw Gaskin be utilized between the 20s, but when it was in the red zone, that was when they were utilizing Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard's no longer being utilized. This is all about Gaskin. Deeper plays that I like this week. So obviously we talked about at the beginning of the show, Philip Lindsay. Philip Lindsay, if he's available and you're deciding between playing both Bengals wide receivers, I'm definitely playing Philip Lindsay over one of those, because guaranteed workload. Without Melvin Gordon there, he's going to be getting the workload. So I really like, in that sort of situation, picking up someone like Philip Lindsay. Wide receivers, Tom, who you got?
You're looking for another wide receiver so that you don't have to go with both of the Cincinnati Bengals receivers. A guy that I really like and a guy that not everyone knows right now is Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick is the second or third option for the Denver Broncos. And we were talking earlier about how Melvin Gordon's not going to play. Philip Lindsay's coming back from that injury. Drew Lock's coming back from an injury. Lock, when he last played, had all of his weapons. He doesn't have Cortland Sutton anymore. The Patriots are going to try and look to take away Jerry Jeudy and Philip Lindsay, and that's going to leave Tim Patrick for some one-on-ones. He's gotten a decent amount of targets every week this year. You know, he was playing with Brian Rippon and Jeff Driscoll. I think that was the other quarterback. You know, I coming off the bye and everything that we just talked about with the Broncos earlier in the show. I really like Tim Patrick this week. He's going to be an underrated guy, and I don't know his DFS money stuff, but I'm sure he's not nearly as expensive as a bunch of these other guys that have bad matchups.
And Tim Patrick's getting constant targets,
Yep.
and especially if we see an early lead from New England, we can definitely see the passing game, the volume increase. And he's been efficient with especially the last two games. His last two games, he has 10 catches on 11 targets for 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, if you take the average of that, I'm taking that.
Well, and it seems that Judy's been more of the dink and dunk, like work it downside. the past 2 weeks, he averaged 10 yards a catch, and then last week was almost 19 yards a catch. He's going to be that deep ball guy, and he's going to break it loose.
Yep. Derek, who you got?
I'm going with Laviska Shenault in Jacksonville against Detroit today. We touched on DJ Chark. If he is playing, I actually think that helps Shenault. I don't really see Chark being a factor with an ankle issue, and that attention will help Shenault even more. We've seen him either equal or increase his receiving output every single week. He's gone from 3 to 3 to 5 to 5, and last week to 7 catches. They're using him more and more. He's an absolute stud. He was derailed by injuries in college, but he should have been a first-round pick. They find all different types of ways to give Shenault the ball, whether it's in the backfield, in the slot, on the outside. He is an absolute stud with the ball in his hands. He's a great athlete, and he's going against Detroit. This defense, Matt Patricia, the defensive-minded Matt Patricia, has led one of the worst defenses under his tenure. He made Drew Brees look like the Drew Brees of old 2 weeks ago. And yes, Gardner Minshew might be a tough play today, as Ryan alluded to, as a dud, but he is almost a shoo-in for 250, 300 passing yards every single week, and Shenault is going to be his main guy today.
And so I have one that is geared towards DFS, and that has to be Chase Claypool. Chase Claypool right now is still the 33rd highest priced wide receiver. I mean, how you're not utilizing someone like a Chase Claypool, who is around the same price as a Marvin Jones, a T.Y. Hilton, a Julian Edelman, a Terry McLaurin. Absolutely, of that group, I'm looking for someone like a Chase Claypool. A deep sleeper that I absolutely love this week, and he's a rookie just starting to get more involved in the passing game in Buffalo every week, and that's Gabriel Davis. Not a lot of people know about him. I think he was a 5th-round draft pick out of UCF. This kid has a really intriguing skill set. I have him on both of my dynasty leagues in my taxi squad, because I think this kid can absolutely erupt. We saw the first play of the game last week against Tennessee was for him. It was a scripted play to get him involved in the game early on, and without their tight end. Oh my God, he's Dawson Knox. Without Dawson Knox in the lineup, and again, I really like Tyler Kroft as a deep tight end sleeper. I think Gabriel Davis is going to be involved in the passing game a lot, because he offers a different skill set than someone like a Beasley and a Brown because of his size.
I like that pick.
And to round out our sleepers, we got tight ends. Tom, who you got?
Yeah, so I'm feeling like I have to change my tight end pick here, because Derek earlier said that Jonnu Smith is now one of those tight ends that you can rely on week by week. So I'm going to have to change gears here and go with Hayden Hurst as a deep sleeper pick. We were talking about the Falcons. They're going up against the Minnesota defense, which is a little iffy and such. We were talking about Julio Jones being in but injured. I think that they're going to look for other ways to move the ball. And now that Dan Quinn is fired, Hayden Hurst is a guy that I think is going to get a little bit more involved than he has been the past couple of weeks, just in the season in general. And I know he's coming off injury as well. I don't know. I like this guy. I think that he's been very misused by Dan Quinn, and I think this week is going to just be different.
Derek, who you got?
I'm going with Irv Smith on Minnesota. It's staying in the same game. His first 4 games were just really confusing. He had 2 catches through 4 games, and he was a nice piece in that offense last year. He's your 2nd-round pick in 2019. He's an explosive athlete. He's a 4'6" guy, 10.5 foot broad. not the biggest guy, but he perfectly complements a guy like Rudolph, who is aging. He's still a great blocking tight end, but he's not there to really catch the ball anymore. Irv Smith, we thought was going to be that receiving tight end in Minnesota the early part of the season. He hasn't been until last week. He had 4 catches for 64 yards against Seattle. Here's another great matchup today. And this, in Minnesota, the way that they are built, they are going to be one of the more 12 personnel heavy teams in football. Irv Smith saw 68% of snaps last week. I expect that to increase after his game last week. And that offense is a tight end's dream with how much they ground and pound and set up the play action for Kirk Cousins. I like Irv Smith this week.
I've been on the Irv bandwagon since last year. He's been my tight end practice squad guy on my dynasty league. Just waiting for that breakout. My tight end sleeper this week is going to be Darren Fells in Houston. He's not going to wow you with a lot of numbers, especially in terms of targets, but he finds a way to get down the seam and make one big play a week, and he is one of the more reliable touchdown scorers in terms of tight ends outside of the big four. When you look at some of these other touchdown numbers, he's just so consistent about getting into the end zone. Jordan Akins is out this week for Houston, so Fells is going to be the main tight end in their offense. And as I said when I was talking about Gabriel Davis, I do think Tyler Kroft as a deep sleeper is really intriguing. We saw the 1 week that Dawson Knox was out, Tyler Kroft came down with 2 touchdowns. So Josh Allen likes throwing to his big guys. So let's wrap up the show. We have our stacks, our lock of the week, and our against the spread pick. Tom, we'll start off with you.
Yeah, so for my stack, other than my favorite stack that I've literally used, I think, every week of Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs, I'm going to keep saying because that's my favorite stack in the league. I got Kyler and D-Hop versus Dallas this week.
What about your lock of the week and your spread pick?
I wasn't sure if we were going through.
Yeah, let's just go. Knock them all out.
All right, sounds good. I'm not really allowed to bet, so I looked at the list that that Derek sent me, and I'll say Buffalo +4. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. Buffalo's going to look to come back from the horrible play that we saw on Tuesday. Show everyone that's still a legit team, but KC's not going to go down that easy. So it's going to be a high-scoring game, and I think they'll keep it within 4. I think it'll be a field goal game.
Derek, how about you?
My stack, I'll go off my QB stud. I'm going to go with Roethlisberger and Juju. Yes, does Denzel Ward scare me a little bit, but Juju's going to go back into the slot today without Deontay Johnson. My lock of the week, Miami Dolphins, playing the Jets. Okay, and last week, but they're playing the Jets. Okay. Against the spread, I'm going to go with the Packers, -1 over Tampa Bay. Does it scare me a little bit that Tom lost last week and was embarrassed on Thursday Night Football? Yes. Is it hard to envision them starting 3-3? Yes. But the Packers are coming off a bye. The Buccaneers are without Vita Vea for the rest of the year. They're absolute stud in the interior. I think Aaron Jones is going to have a big day. Jamal Williams is going to have a big day, and I expect the Packers to lay it on Tampa Bay and score a lot of points. I like Green Bay.
That game's going to be really fun to watch.
Absolutely. It's only that in Miami at 4:00, which is, I don't know why the NFL did that, but I'm excited for that game.
Yeah. I wonder which one I'll watch.
Sorry,
I know
Tom.
which one I'll be watching.
Sorry, Tom.
So my stack of the week is going to be Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. Cousins starting to look a little better each week. And Adam Thielen right now is the wide receiver 2 in all of football. He trusts him in every part of the field. in every down, every situation. That's his guy. And I think the emergence of Justin Jefferson has only allowed for some softer coverages on Adam Thielen, which is just going to help him out
Absolutely.
even more. My lock pick of the week, and it's funny because when I was going through some of these games and with the spreads, and I'm looking, and there's two games that have the same spread as the highest spread of the week, and that was Baltimore favored over Philly, and Miami favored over the Jets. The fact that Miami is tied for the biggest favorite of the week.
You want to hear something absolutely crazy? This will be the 22nd game Brian Flores has coached in Miami. It is the first time he's a favorite.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's nuts. That's nuts. He's done an unbelievable job.
Oh yeah, and again, if you watch Derek and I on the Zero Technique, I've been hammering down the past 2 weeks about how I thought Miami was better than anyone was giving him credit for, and so yeah, kudos to him. They're definitely a different team.
Was it just me, or was it really difficult to pick just in general for everything?
This was definitely a weird week.
Yeah.
My straight up pick is the Colts over the Bengals, and my against the spread pick is the Broncos getting 8.5 points from the Patriots. The Patriots have not been able, and I know Tennessee sort of proved that you don't need to practice a whole lot in order to have a lot of success. But the Patriots, and especially Cam Newton, have not gotten a lot of work over the past 2 weeks. And I think that this is just way too high of a spread. Do I think the Patriots can win? Yeah. But do I think this is going to be close to a double-digit game? I don't think so. So I like the Broncos getting 8.5. It's going to wrap it up for us today. Thank you for all of you who sent in comments. Looking forward to more questions as the weeks go on. Follow Tom on Twitter at THB315. Derek is at Derek Mountain. I'm at rstern33. If you have any lineup questions, shoot them over to us, and we will get them over to you as soon as possible. And make sure you're checking out backsportspage.com and at backsportspage on all social media platforms. Guys, hope you enjoy all of the football this week.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to do my best. We'll see. 0-16. Tank for Trevor on Twitter.
All right, guys. Be well, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.